Mm.
And we are rolling.
Yes.
Hey
What about you?
Fabricio, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks.
Ah,
And you?
yeah, I'm also fine. It's really nice to have you here on another episode of our podcast.
Thanks for the
Uh,
opportunity.
yes, it's really nice to see you here, man. So
Mm.
yeah, let's do this. And I heard you just recently got promoted.
That's
That's a
true.
big thing. How was
Yeah,
it?
that's true. Yeah, it was fun.
What's happening? Yeah.
Yeah, I have been working as a Scrum Master and Agile coach for the last 3 years, and I recently got into management at Scania, so I was promoted to a group manager of infrastructure delivery department, and it feels good. It feels nice to be able to influence the organization in the things that we believe as well. So I think it's really nice.
Finally, we have someone in the management who actually knows a lot about Agile and
Yeah, yeah,
can help teams be better. That's
yeah,
fantastic. That's
yeah. That's the main idea. Yeah.
what I really, really like. So
Mhm.
congrats for that. But
Thanks.
how is it going for you? You said that you've been doing many things before as an
Yeah,
Agile coach or Scrum Master. How did it go
yeah.
for you? How was it? Because the topic for today's discussion is like resistance to change, right? Resistance to change
Hmm.
in Agile.
Yeah. I think to start my whole love history with Agile, I need to take a few steps back. I think when I was still in Brazil, maybe 5 years back, I started to touch a few topics and to hear this word quite a lot, Agile, to hear Scrum, uh, and that was new for me as well. So I was like in university, we didn't touch those topics that much. I would say. I think we touched mainly the traditional project management.
Ah,
And
was it a special university? Which one was it?
no, it was in Brazil. It was a specific IT information systems bachelor's degree.
So methodologists were just a side discipline, not the major.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I think like at the first moment when I started to get in touch with Agile, I was one of those that maybe was like, okay, does this really work? Is it just like a marketing thing, or is it someone that's trying to sell me or something? Taking a few years back when I first read about Agile, or when I got introduced to it, I also had my, I would not say concerns, but I was okay. I like to question. I like to challenging things, and then I did challenge it as well. So mainly my first knowledge on it was just like reading online about the ceremonies that you have. I was working as a technician, so I was like really not into Scrum Master yet. But I already did had an interest into moving more towards an administrative role instead into more technical things. And then I got to do one small training about Scrum, like these online free trainings. And it was for me that was everything. For me, it was something. Okay, this is agile. It's simple. You just do one, two meetings here and there. You write down some stuff, and that's it. So that was my superficial knowledge about agile and about how powerful it can be.
What,
And there
what
we were mainly talking about Scrum as well, so I didn't got you in touch with any other like frameworks or anything like that.
It's funny because one of the topics I'm gonna do soon is gonna be why Agile does not equal to Scrum. It's
Yeah,
not the same. So
yeah. That's quite interesting as well. And yes, so when I moved to Sweden, then I had the opportunity to do a way deeper training, and then that was like Scrum Master training here in Stockholm, and that was whoa, that was like a boom into my mind because I think everything that I thought it was in that we were doing in my previous team, like having daily meetings and even calling it a sprint, but having a time box, but not focusing on improvements and things like that. So it was a big boom for me to like to really see what was how powerful it was, and that I was not maybe even touching like 10% of it of what it could be or what it could do. So I with this training I started to work as a Scrum Master for a team. Um, and it was a small team, so we didn't have that many persons into it as well. It was a development team, a .NET development team, and I started to try new stuff. So I started to, okay, what if instead of the old traditional method that we go into the money pools and I am asking everyone and they are like reporting to me and not to the team, and if I was not there, the process were not happening, and things like that. So I started to challenge stuff. I started to say, okay, but do they really need to report to me? That's not right. And together with all of the knowledge that I got in the training, I started to try new stuff and to really put focus mainly into selling the team as well to the organization. Hey, here's a really good team, even though we are really small, we are doing great stuff here, and to play around with estimations, to remove hours, to start to use the story points instead. So
That's that thing about like, reporting to you. That's, I mean, that's very classical for the
yeah,
organizations which are pre-agile kind of era. And it's
mhm,
also very typical for Brazil, isn't it? Like you have quite strong hierarchies in
yeah,
Brazil
yeah,
compared to like Sweden or
unfortunately, yeah,
Denmark.
yeah, definitely. So it is, yeah, it was a big change. I think this was one topic as well that changed my mind quite a lot because I think we have totally different cultures when we compare Brazil and Sweden. So yeah, this was a opening, mind opening for me or mind blowing. So I started to try new things, and then it was pretty much try and error. Like I was doing stuff and seeing how it was, how the team was feeling. Do you guys like that? Do you guys don't like that?
What were the most like, revolutionary things, or like something that you still remember, which was like, oh wow.
One thing that the team liked quite a lot was that I created a sprint report for the team, and I was sharing that with the whole organization. And then I was like, okay, they are doing a really good job. How can I show that to everyone? Of course, we could invite everyone for a demo, but that's okay. The demo is going to be there, and everyone's going to go home, and everyone's going to forget. I want something continuously. I want something that I can publish, and you can even show to someone that's not working on our team, and they would still understand what was done. So I wanted something more than a demo, I would say. And then I created this sprint report with really like fluffy graphs and things like that. And I was
Excel
like, hey,
file or something.
yeah. And then I was like, okay, hey, here's what the team's doing. Here's the achievements of the sprints. Like we started like one of the first sprints that we did using story points. Like it was really fun. We thought we could deliver 100 story points.
Okay, it was a small team. How many people you say it was?
I think it was 8 person. Yeah, 6 persons in the
Six
team. Yeah,
persons. I
six
mean,
persons. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it really depends on your rule, right? So if you think that a story that's really simple, it's worth 50 story points, then okay. But that
yeah.
was not our case. We really pushed into a lot of stuff, and the team was like, "Yeah, we can do that. 100. That's a good number. Let's do it." And it was so funny because we delivered 7 story points.
Seven,
7 story
seven,
points in a
0,
2 weeks.
7, 7, 7
7 out of the
out
100.
of 100.
Yeah.
All right. How did you sell these story points to the team? I mean, how did they even
Mm,
know that they're story points, or was it like something
yeah,
that you would like to like
yeah.
prove or? Or was it
Yeah,
like?
for the story points, I did have the help from a person in the organization that was Eric Hultgren, and
Oh, I
today,
know the guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
today working at Spotify. So apart from the Agile training that I did, apart from being a Scrum Master, I also had a few sessions with him where he kind of brainwashed me into the Agile world as well.
Nice.
So he helped me to sell into that, the difference between comparing hours and comparing the story points, and even to sell that to business as well, to the business side. So the team, of course, really agreed with it. It was a kind of assignment project that we were doing, and that was going to last like for a long period. Like it was a big activity that we were doing, and then yeah, he helped me into selling that. And of course, the developers liked it because for the developer, looking in every ERA case and seeing like, oh, I have 44 hours left for that, and I haven't even started looking through it. I need to break it down on what we need to do. So it was really appreciated by the team. I think it
It's
was
much
really
easier for
easy.
the brain as well to do this
Yeah,
like relative size estimations
yeah,
rather than like time estimations. So yeah,
yeah,
I can
yeah.
imagine.
And we were
But that's a real.
considering at that time it was only like, okay, the most skilled developer, he's the one that says how many hours. So it's of course okay if you're most skilled, this thing is gonna take 44 hours for a year. How it's gonna be with like an intern that you just got into the team, you know?
Oh damn it! Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, so that's what I've been doing. After that, I got into other teams. I started to help other teams as well. After we sold, like I published this report that we were doing, and it was one report that we did when we achieved, let's say, it was not even that good. We achieved like 80-90% of the sprint commitment that we had, which like after 10 sprints that we started. So it was indeed a
It
good
wasn't
progress.
100 even at that point of time.
Yeah, no. And then, yeah, so people started to see that and they started to ask me, what are you guys doing? How you guys are doing it? Then I started to invite people from other teams to our ceremonies to show the process, how we were doing. That started to get a little bit famous or started to get popularity within our department and our
Fame and
sector.
fortune, here I come.
And yeah, then I started to help other teams, and it was really helpful for me as well to learn that okay, now I have, let's sort of like with help from Eric, uh, designed how this team should work. But with time, when I was touching other teams, I was saying, okay, that solution that I applied there maybe doesn't work here, or here I have other challenges and things like that. And for me, in the beginning, it was not like that. For me, Agile was okay. You do the meetings, like yeah, and then you follow it by the book, and you are not flexible at all. And yeah, so I have learned quite a lot with this. It's in these last 5 years, I would say, and
it's,
especially
it's
within these 3 years that I moved to Sweden.
it's pretty amazing how you like you realize that your view on things have changed over time, and it's
Yeah,
amazing for me to see people, uh, especially senior managers who like maybe read an article and saw maybe a couple of videos, like from Spotify from Henrik Nieberg on the
yeah. Yeah, I did the
on,
training with him. By the way, I did the
yeah, I
training.
also did him. He was my
My
first coach. Yeah,
yeah, my
he's
Scrum Master training was with him, and my PO training was with him as well.
yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to keep in touch with him now and then, but he's quite busy now.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then these guys like they're like, oh, we know everything about Agile, and then yeah, and like they ask you to do things by the book, and that's exactly what you're getting. You're not getting like any
Yeah.
flexibility if you do it by the book. It's
Yes. Yeah, it's. I think you need to be like as a person as well. Like you, uh, we have different personalities. So there is people that they will like read a phrase in Google. Like a doctor studied for like 4 years, and then even we when we get sick, we go into Google and we Google like, okay, I'm feeling this, and that. And then we read and we think, oh, I have this, I am sick. But yeah, it's I think we need to dare to challenge our own knowledge somehow. Like, is it really like that? But I think it is.
It's super easy to kind of, if you've got a success somewhere, it's super easy to assume that the same pattern will work in another organization. But then you kind of don't take into account totally different people who are involved in that, totally different situation, totally different reasons for this situation to happen. And I mean, all that adds to the solution, or to the things that you're going to plan together with those people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just doing it by yourself, you're making, like, this violence for that organization. It's like Agile is all about people. Well, it's one of the major components, right?
Mm-hmm.
If people are not part of the solution, then they will not accept it and they will not follow you.
Yeah. And I think in the Scrum master trainings that I did, I think there was a phrase that really marked me, and it was really, these things that you hear that they make so much sense that when you hear it, you are like, why I never thought about this before. And it was a really quite simple phrase, but it was like, okay, for any type of work or any type of framework or initiative to work, you need to assume that you have persons that would like you to succeed. So you have persons that are motivated to make it succeed as well. And I think this is what is related to being related to resistance to change, because this thing can affect quite a lot, like in an agile journey. And yeah, it took like, for example, for these teams that I was working with, for one team, I think within 6-8 months they were quite good at it. I was pretty much not needed that much. They became self-sufficient. They were touching new technologies. They were doing improvements in the process. They became like a learning organization by themselves. But then it was a small team. We didn't have that much resistance to change. So it was eventually easy. But then I faced scenarios where it was an even smaller team, or I thought it was going to be even easier by having contact with the persons and things like that. But then once you get into it, then you see that the resistance to change, it can be explicit and it can be implicit.
All right, that's interesting.
So it can be explicit that you propose a change and a guy throws the notebook on you and say, I don't want to do that, I quit. But the resistance can be implicit as well. So that no one dares to say anything, and they really like, okay, it works, or I already know how that works. I already do it. We are already agile. So it's a quite interesting fact also.
This phrase, we're already really agile. I mean, that's a killer phrase. I heard it so many times. Like, we're already agile.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know that? Well, we do daily stand-ups, we run sprints, we deliver value.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay, cool. Is that really amazing. What it takes?
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I think somehow it is a lack of knowledge, of course, but at the same time, I think it's okay. We need to be able to challenge ourselves, as we said, like, because you can provide any type of knowledge for these persons that are saying this, but if they really don't want to take it in, it's really going to be in the same situation. So that's really hard to overcome.
It's a really good phrase.
You can bring like different cases and show, hey, this is how they do. This is how these are other organizations doing. But indeed, if the person doesn't want you to open their eyes and to see and to challenge, okay, what else can we do? Can we do something more? Maybe we can, maybe we can't, but let's give it a try. So
it's like you can bring the horse to the lake, but you cannot make them drink, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And exactly. It sounds like in the first case where you described your first team, which was a success scenario, it seems like it was just a lack of knowledge that they had, and, like, a bit of a process to organize themselves in a good way.
Yeah.
And then they were like on the same page with you. They were willing, they were motivated to do things together with you, and they were open. So the relationship part was there. And as you say, they were like in the same boat with you.
Yeah.
And the story you're
That,
telling right now with this team, I guess it's going to be a bit different.
yeah. I think, there are many factors that helped me. I think in the first team, in the first approach, I got quite a lot of help from a lot of people as well. So I think the whole organization, it was indeed known that it was not a good situation. So I think this is a easy thing to overcome, resistance to change. When you already don't have a good situation, and when you need to do something, and that's the best opportunity, I would say, to start to selling agile values, to start to selling methods, because then they know they are not satisfied.
They're
They are
ready
looking
for
for
it.
something. Yeah,
They're ready to
they
try
want
something
to
new.
change. Yeah, so that there is not resistance at all. Exactly, they want to change. They just need someone to guide them and to help them. So I think in this case, it was indeed quite a lot of work, because uh, it was like, okay, we didn't have really a PO, so it was a team that was sitting in another country, not in Sweden, and we were not seeing them face to face that much. We had one guy in the team that was like really good developer, and he was doing quite a lot of other stuff as well, because he was really good. Uh, and then what happened was that when I came in, they told me, okay, this is the situation, Fabricio. We have promised to these persons on the business side that we will rewrite this whole system using new technology, using new code. And we said that we will do that within 1, 2 years or something like that. And that had been ongoing for 3 years already. And they were constantly needing to ask for more budget and to like more time to deliver it. So that was the situation. So for me, uh, just selling that to business together with other persons and even at it was easy because we really did, and they know. And then we okay, we have something that we would like to try.
I
Would
think
you
it's
like to?
I think it's breaking up. I didn't hear the last phrase.
Uh-huh.
If you could repeat that.
Sorry. Yeah.
No,
So
it's I think it's the connection.
mhm. So when what we did was that we really came to the business and we asked them, "Are you happy with the situation we are in?" And they were like, "No, we are not happy, of course."
Like what questions did you ask them? Like, did you ask them about the specific aspects of the work that they're not happy, or like just overall, like, are you happy or not?
Yeah, I think in that case, we focused mainly on that delivery, on that project, let's say, or that assignment that was to rewrite our old system with new technology. So I really asked, like, okay, are you happy with the situation we are in when it comes to this delivery here? And I knew that there was way more things under the table, like trust issues, and a lot of other problems like that the organization had, and problems that we had on both sides, not only in IT as well. No one is really perfect, so. But I asked specifically to that delivery, "Are you happy with that?" And they were like, "No, of course not. We every time I go because they had their own customers as well, so they were going every year to their customers and saying, "Hey, it's going to be delivered that date," and then it's not. And so it was their credibility that was okay in the game as well. Anyways, and it was costing a lot of money, so they were not happy. And then we said, okay, the approach is quite simple, and we can continue to create a waterfall plan here for you, saying that we will do this until that date, and that after that we do that, and after that we do that, or we can try something different. We would like to try something different.
Was it a
Are you
large
up
system
to?
or was it a small system, kind of, or mid-size? Or
It's a really big system. It's quite big system. So it's I think I can say that it's a sister that's dealing with all of the dealers around the world for
all of the dealers?
dealers. Yeah.
So it's not like the ERP thingy. It's a bit
No, no,
simpler than
no.
that, I guess.
It's around that, yeah, but
All
not
right.
that big, yeah.
All right.
Uh, so they were, of course, they were a little bit like, okay, but what is this new thing that you want to try? How it can really help us, and what's going to cost us, and things like that.
Yeah.
So we showed them a little bit. Okay, we first off we need a research from our side because one of their claims was like, okay, we have no transparency or visualization on that what you guys are working with. And then we said, okay, if you want to have that, you need to instantly give us a person to be. And then we started to see that person as like a PO. We need instantly to have one person. And they were like, no, but we are a small team of 6, 7 persons. But in the end, we did got a person that was one of the most experienced persons, which was a really, really nice PO indeed.
It's really good. That's a very good start.
Yeah. And then we sent that person into a PO training inside our company. And that person flew to Sweden, went to the training, and flew back to their country. And then after that, we started to run. We were already running the all of the ceremonies, but then we started to give responsibility to the PO. Okay, here is what happens when, let's say, you want us to do this, and that, like a number of tasks. And apart from our own developments, that was rewriting the system. So we have a capacity, and we want in every sprint to put as much of this development for this new system as we can.
By the time you kind of knew your capacity because you've run a couple of kind of sprints, I guess.
Couple of sprints,
you had some statistics and historical background for that.
So we measured everything, and the team was starting to get familiar as well with the estimations and even getting better at the estimations as well, and with how much they could take in every sprint. And then we really explained to the PO, to this person taking the role as PO, okay, this is what happens. Because there was quite a lot of like maintenance that needed to be done at the same time that we were developing the new system. So we said, okay, we cannot deliver the new system if you guys continue to push a lot of maintenance that you would like us to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have one capacity, and we need to measure, like, okay, would you like us to be 90% putting the focus in the new system and maybe 10% for maintenance or for other activities, or would you like to be the opposite? That's going to affect a lot on how fast we're going to be able to deliver the new system for you guys. And then the person started to understand, and then we had a few issues with breaking the contract of the sprint planning, like introducing new tasks and not removing other tasks.
Nice.
Yeah, so I
You've taught
needed
them a
to
lesson.
yeah, so I needed to step in quite a lot of times there, but by the end we were able to achieve a really better result.
So what
And
did
I
they
think,
tell you? Did they agree to like put a lot of efforts in the new system, or did they ask you to keep the maintenance flow?
yeah, their focus was like, okay, let's do as much as we can of the development for the new system. Let's focus, let's say, at least 80% in every sprint. Let's focus on that, and we will try to keep these maintenance things. We wait with them for the new system, so that we can even add more functionality to it. So the scope started to even grow because in the beginning we just wanted to rewrite the system the same way it was with technology, and then they saw, okay, but if we were rewriting the system, maybe we can ask for more functions on it as well.
Of course.
So then it started to grow even more, and then we explained as well again as well. But I think in the end we still achieved a quite good result when it comes to it.
Just a quick like intermediate summary here. I guess what was missing previously was, and which caused a lot of issues, is there was no like transparency on what is happening in the team,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no feedback from the team to the business guys. Like what is the amount of work they're taking? Like what's the split between the new development and the maintenance? So everyone had this fluffy idea in their heads, like what is going on, but no one actually knew in fact what is happening. And with bringing good process, with bringing transparency, you started to show things to people, and that's kind of first, I guess, created some like conflicts of like, oh, but why can't we have both? Because we used to have it previously, but now we can't. And then you showed the capacity and what you're working on. And that's like where they say, okay, now we realize what is happening, and they've started approaching this more responsibly as well.
Exactly. So I really think there were a few issues, and the issues I would really categorize them, as you said, like transparency, I think trust, because indeed we were the ones always having failures with our delivery dates and with our budget, let's say, for that activity. So of course, if you fail one time, two, three, but okay, the more it goes, I think we failed 6 times in that case. I think for 6 times, we needed to postpone. And that means really asking for like 6 months longer, and asking for like double the budget or something like that. So somehow you lose the trust.
Oh, not somehow. I mean, if you don't deliver to business, then how can they trust you? That's very easy. I mean, these relationships are going based on the, again, transparency, and trust is a consequence of that.
Yeah, definitely. And then, as you said as well, I think it was a quite easy situation for the business persons as well, because they were sitting in another place and they were pretty much pointing the finger and throwing stuff at us, like, okay, do this as well, do this as well, and why don't deliver this thing that I asked you for 3 years ago, and why is the project not happening? And they were continuing throwing stuff for us to do. So it was like, okay, we cannot do any magic here, like, so that was really interesting, because then we got this ownership from them as well, to be part of the team somehow, and to be responsible for also the deliveries and the prioritization on what we should go focus on. So I think it was really, really nice. I think we managed to achieve a really good relation with them, with time and that as well. And we all learned together. Even I learned quite a lot. I think most of the agile mindset, or even the methodology itself, the framework of Scrum, I learned quite a lot during this period. I grew quite a lot with that experience.
You maybe like also summarize a bit, like the main like resistant points in this project, or in this for this team, for this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with this project specifically, at first there was this resistance to what is agile, because they didn't even have any knowledge about it. But it was not I would not say even it was a resistance. It was
Which
just
year,
like,
by the way, was it in? Like,
sorry?
like 5 years back or something? Where was it?
No, that was 3 years back. That was my
3 years
first, one of my first assignments in Sweden.
So I mean, the Agile was already on the market for quite a while, and was quite well known.
Yeah.
It was easy for them to hear the
Yeah,
buzz.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Mm.
And I think one of the barriers that we put down was the fact that we asked for a resource, or a person from that business unit to be a product owner, to step us up as a product owner, and to be part of a training here in Sweden. So I think that helped as well. And I think the rest, it kind of flowed, I really don't think we had that much more problems after that. I think my manager at that time did a really good job as well, because I tried to convince him about everything that we were doing, and that it was the right path as well. And I think with time he noticed that okay, business is quite, they are feeling positive about this. They're not happy still because we haven't delivered, but okay, they are
Some
part of it
interaction,
as
some
well.
positive things are happening.
Yeah, yeah. And then he took advantage of this agile setup that we had, with the fixed capacity and things like that. And he introduced a new financial model to business.
Okay, interesting.
So he even introduced the financial model, like where he was with a fixed budget for the year. So that's the capacity we have, and this is how much you're gonna pay for the rest of the year. And then we simply split that by 12, and okay, every month business was having the same cost itself. So he really did a good job when it comes to that. I think that helped a lot us because then we started to not have discussions about hours anymore with business and to that they were questioning, yeah, but why that takes 7 or 8 story points, or what's the point in that?
But what were
So
those discussions you also had? Like, yeah, why this takes 7 or 8 story points, and like, what are we
yeah,
paying you for? And like,
yeah, yeah. In
so
the beginning, it was even how many hours is one story point? This was
yeah.
one of the first questions that popped up.
Wow.
And that was a challenge as well to overcome. To say no, we don't make any associations with the hours on the story points. Otherwise, there's no need into using them. We use hours instead. It's easier. So yeah, and then with time, there were a few questions. Like the PO was challenging, like, okay, but why is it 2 story points for this? Why is it 5 for that? But with time, and I think we coached together the whole team, and with time we started to build trust into that, and to okay, we trust who is doing the work to say how much effort they need to put into it. It's not fair that we the ones not doing it have any say in it.
I mean, I don't see the negative thing in like, challenging things, especially if the team is new and running this like, for a couple of
Mm,
times. It actually might help them, like, to think why one person says like it's 2 story points and the other one says it's
mhm,
5. That's the part of the framework where you kind of try to understand what's in it, right?
mhm, yeah,
And how one is relative to another one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
I
quite
think
good. But over time, when the trust is there, it's much easier to do. And then, yeah,
yeah,
maybe you're not so harsh in that as maybe he was in the beginning.
yeah. I think
But how did he manage? How did he manage to go from the hours? That's very interesting. I mean, this is a very typical question
yeah, yeah,
that you're like, oh, we are paying for the team, but we're getting delivered like, oh, like if it's a sprint, it's like, let's say 5 people, it's 10 days. And like, you multiply 5 by 10, that's 15 by 8. And then that's the hours we should kind of get delivered. But then in the end of the sprint, we're getting 6 story points. And how many
mhm,
hours is that? Well, then one story point is like 30 hours or whatever,
mhm,
right? Or 60 or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
It's like, wow, huge. But is it really like that? And
mhm,
that's a tough thing, because then you start to kind of realize or understand like what's in it. Why? I
mhm,
mean, the calculation they do is right? I
mhm,
mean, that's very
mhm,
simple. But if you're
mhm,
working for the startup, I think that's very very valid point. You're focused
yeah,
on one thing. If you're working
yeah,
in a large organization, you kind of never have 8 working hours per day.
yeah,
You have mandatory trainings. You have all sorts of meetings in the organization that you work for. You have activities which are not related explicitly to your work, but they're part of your daily work or daily life in the
mhm,
company.
mhm,
And
yeah,
like in some banks, some people say, like, they give statistics that it's like, oh, it's only 4 hours a day where we can actually do some coding, and it's in
mhm,
the best case scenario.
yeah, yeah,
And the rest is like, well, it's the debt or the tribute to the organization. And
mhm,
if it's a like hourly relationship within business units, then it's really tough to justify those hours.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I guess what your manager did, he just said you have a fixed team, and
yeah,
this team runs with the best speed they can run, and
yeah,
they'll do it for a year for you on this, and they
yeah,
will focus on this activity.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was. I think indeed we mentioned these things that you mentioned. I think that helped to sell in. Like, okay, we asked them back. Do you really work 8 hours per day? You don't go to the toilet, like you don't go to take a coffee or anything like that. And I think especially in Sweden that we have the fika culture as well. Like, I mean, it's really hard to say that you really work 8 hours per day. Like, 365 days of the year. But I think one of the things that when we said to them, to this business person, this business unit, regarding why to use star points, I think when we said something, I noticed that they were like, okay, oh, that had impact. And what we said was that we want to promote our coworkers by the problems they solve and how much value they add compared to the effort, and not by how many times they needed to work to solve something.
It's excellent.
Yeah, so I think
Maximizing the value, not the output.
yeah, so that was like a big, oh, okay. And in the end, it was an approach that was easy because it, as I said, like they were not in a comfortable situation. So it was easy for us to say, let's give it a try. If we don't like it, we roll back and we continue the way we were. And that's what we did pretty much, like to give it a try, and they liked it and we continued it.
But how did you make this conversation about the value? I mean, did you start using the value for the sprints and for the tasks? Did you measure the value you deliver per sprint? How was it for that team?
Yeah, we were mainly, that was a hard situation. But what I did is that we were mainly focusing in hours before, and we had the estimation for everything, like the whole system. We estimated one time in the beginning, and they
You've
did
gone
that.
through all the backlog. You've like looked at each of the items. You did the rough estimate for that.
Yeah, yeah. That was like how it was before. Before even I came in, everything was estimated in hours. And then I did a session with the team and with the product owner explaining about, okay, why can't we give it a try to this? We know that it's not working. All of the IRAs were like really saying like 44, 88 hours, 100 and something hours.
Super precision.
Yeah, and they were not even breaking down. Like, so I said, we need to break down things. We need to touch them on a much smaller approach, and we need to stop looking at these hours. This is just negativity for us as well, because the team was feeling like really, really bad as well. Of course, they were failing like for a long time, and every time they go to work, they open the IRA and they see like, okay, today I need to work 700 hours if you want to deliver in time. Like that's not really motivating for anyone. So then I became their administrator in IRA, and I changed everything to star points. So I removed all of the hours from all of the IRAs. And then I said, okay, we don't look at these things. We made a mistake. We learned for it. Let's start from there. So yeah, I think it was mainly on an approach to let's give it a try. Let's look into value because this is what's going to bring us forward. It's in the end we're gonna do this. It doesn't matter how many hours it takes. We're gonna do it. So
Did you have some sort of like roadmaps?
yeah, at the same time we created a roadmap, and this was something that it was our main developer that was doing it. Our main developer was the one that was doing all of these administrative tasks, like to administrate a roadmap, participate in architectural meetings and things like that, and even following like the infrastructure release plan that the organization had, and making sure all the servers were upgraded in time and patches and things like that. And when we transferred that to the PO, then it became quite natural that the PO was the one in control of it, what the team was going to do. And since this uh, mainly developer, he had the experience of working with the roadmap and things like that. He also felt quite comfortable into raising the hand to the PO. And that's one thing I think that I see in a lot of teams like that. They think, okay, it's only the PO who can propose things should be done and things like that. So yeah, we did have a roadmap. By a long time, it was being administrated by a developer. But then as soon as we could, we really transferred that to the PO. We explained the responsibility, what was the goal with it, in order to have a major plan and not only into the sprints, to plan only for the sprints, but to have a major planning of what we'd like to do, and even to help with the capacity and these agreements that we were doing once a year for the budget as well.
So for this roadmap, how did you correlate the scope with the timeline? Because that's where the tricky part comes in. You know, if as you said, it's never good with the development team to translate story points into hours. But if you are doing the prognosis, you have to correlate what you do with the timeline. And for the large organizations, that's the only way to continue, because that's how they run. They need budgeting. They need to, like, you know, have a forecast. For many companies, that's a struggle. How did you approach that?
Yeah. For us, I think what we mainly did was that we divided the year in quarters in the roadmap. So we were really not looking to month by month what we would be doing. So it was really on a high level roadmap, and we have put sizes to the activities that were in the roadmap using like the common T-shirt sizes.
Which one? Sorry.
T-shirt sizes.
Oh, T-shirt sizes. All right.
Yeah. So so we based ourselves and we try to sell that the roadmap it's mainly a draft of a plan, because in the end it's going to be so hard for us to predict and to create a plan. So the roadmap was like a goal that we wanted to achieve, but to achieve it, it's really hard as well. So I think that was the message that we gave when we handed over, especially the roadmap to the PO. Like, try to keep it updated. We were reviewing it after the end of every sprint, because it was really like a lot of things changing and more maintenance coming in. Like, infrastructure department comes to us and, okay, you need to upgrade your servers. So it was a lot of things changing along the way. So I would say that the main estimate that we had in the roadmap was like a total guess from really using a T-shirt size. Like, okay, this story or this epic, it will take. It's a large thing. That's gonna take a lot of effort. We don't know with what. If it's gonna be investigation, or if it's architecture, or if it's development. But we know that this is going to be a problem, or no, this is a small one. We know a little bit about the environment. When we rewrote the code, we needed to go through everything, so it's fresh still in our minds, so we can go into that module and make changes. I think it will be easy for us. So it was as well a correlation between whenever we were reviewing the roadmap, the PO was reviewing it together with the whole team. So they were making these adjustments together as well. So it was not only the PO saying, okay, we will do that here, and it's going to take this effort. No, it was I think a smart way that we did to come together with the team to review the roadmap as well together with the PO.
It's really nice.
I think that's how we overcame it.
That's where you kind of built this common understanding on what's going to happen on the high level. Yeah, and you
get commitment as well from them.
Yeah, and you managed to sell this message. It's rather it's a map. It's not a territory.
Yeah.
Right. It's how you see things. And I mean, there are like two major ways I think working with this. It's either using the capacities and this calculation of story points, and sometimes translated to, like, you know, weeks or sprints or hours. And the other one is like using quantity of deliveries. If you're running Kanban, for example. But you've did it in a good way, it sounds like.
Yeah. I think, as I said, I think with this project, it was, I would not say it was easy to sell in everything, like the whole package, that we would use Scrum, that we would have a PO, that we would have a roadmap, that we will focus on that activity. But indeed, it was a lot of work to make it reach the level that it reached. But I think it was really nice.
Was it a success or a failure?
this one, I would say it was a big success. I think this is the one that I'm most proud of,
Wow.
actually, of everything. Like, I think it showed the organization the power of the persons that we had in the team and the power of the innovation and the delivery that we had when no one is being opposed to you and there is no resistance to the change itself. So I think this is one of the best cases that I like to bring up as well because it really showed like, okay, sometimes things are not good, and everyone, that's really cliche, everyone says that that's when the opportunity comes. But for us it was really like that. It was when the opportunity to sell in these new values, this new way of working to the organization, and we didn't have anyone that was working against it or that was throwing the computer on us or like even being quiet and trying to not cooperate with it. Everyone was with one goal, like we need to improve this, it's really bad, and everyone was open to new things and to try new stuff. Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then I'm waiting for the resistance, man.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
good,
waiting
yeah,
for that.
yeah. I can mention that I think right after I touched this team, it became a moment where it was not I didn't feel challenged anymore with this team after working with like 2 years with this team. I really felt like, okay, now I feel like I would like to try something different. And of course, I was still touching other teams and helping them, but I wanted to focus on something different itself. And then I got one assignment to work with a team that was working with ERP system. Uh, I think that was a case that I learned a lot as well. I learned a lot about myself, and that was a case where I think I had numerous failures. I think it was a case where I
Comes
think
to ERP, it's so easy.
yeah, yeah, of course. And that was a case where the resistance to change was in the way that I told you, that there's the explicit and the implicit. So I felt that the resistance to change there was somehow implicit, but a little bit explicit as well. So, and then it was coming in that form that we talked about, that we are already agile, we already do these things. And for me, I had only touched the explicit, that no, this doesn't work, or no, I don't want to use the story points, this doesn't happen. And I have touched the ones that, okay, let's give it a try. So I touched cooperative teams, teams that were resistant to it explicitly, and teams that were explicit against it or resistant to it implicit. But this was a mix of both. This was a little bit, they are explicit and at the same time they are implicit. And their main thing is really saying like, we are already agile, we already do these things. And my challenge was really to even get to a point that I would get their attention. Like I think it was so hard because even if you wanted to show, okay, this is what we did in other use cases, this is what we did with these other teams, maybe we can give it a try on that. They were so really like convinced that they were already in a good level when it comes to their agile maturity journey, that they were not even listening to it. So it was even hard, like in a meeting, they were all like, okay, I don't even look at you, what you're saying. So it was
Wow.
really, 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 really hard, this one. And
Was
then
it
what I,
from the team members, or was it from the management, or which
yeah,
level was it most?
I think it was a mix, but I think it was mostly in the management level. Uh, I don't know. I think it was a mix actually, because a few team members showed interest into it. Like, okay, yeah, I heard about that. Let's give it a try. I'm looking forward to it. And a few team members were also like, I don't know if that will work, but they were quiet. So I think it was a mix, but I think mainly in the management as well. And I think that's a common thing. Like when you become a manager, especially when you become a manager of a manager or a manager of a manager of a manager, the
Yep.
yeah, the longer you get from the organization, the hard maybe it gets for you if you don't look for it, to have these interactions with your organization and to really feel what's their troubles, what it's really happening there. I think somehow it's easy, like even now that I became a manager, I see that okay, I need to make time to be available for my team, and I need as well to be part of it. Otherwise, I will be taking decisions on what I feel only and not really on facts.
Very
So
small fracture of the reality. The further you
yeah,
go, the easier it's make a. It is to have an opinion which is
yeah,
based on not facts and not your own experience, but on someone who said to someone
yeah,
something which
yeah,
just a pure perception of things maybe,
yeah,
and which does not correlate to your own experience. That's
yeah,
why it's important to have leaders, maybe even I'll say managers who understand how things work, and who have tried things for themselves, and as you
yeah,
say, find time to get in touch with teams.
yeah. And
But
it's
then
so hard, of course, like it's meetings the whole way. It's hard, but it's extremely needed. I feel it's extremely needed. I think all the leaders, all the managers, whatever you call it, you should make sure you have time with your team, and that applies even for the, as I said, managers of the managers and managers of the managers of the managers. Like you need to be part of it as well. Otherwise, you just you base your it becomes assumptions, right? It becomes not maybe the right thing, or maybe you don't see the real picture.
just a quick remark here. I mean, I
Mm,
was really positively shocked. I mean, Scania IT is a large organization. I think it's above 3,000 people, right?
mm,
Is it 3 or 5? It's a lot of people.
yeah, yeah,
And the CTO finds time in his agenda to go and visit like every team through the week. I was so shocked with that. I
yeah,
think it's so cool.
yeah. I'm gonna have with him as well in a few weeks. I mean, I think that makes a difference. That makes it, and I don't think we see that in a lot of places, to be honest.
No,
And it's a difference from when as well the CTO or maybe whoever the manager is, the higher management is, when
no,
they
it's
book
super
something.
empowering.
Yeah, but when they book something, just to be there, just to say that they did. And there's a difference in that and a difference in being there really to listen and really to absorb, and really to understand and to try to help and to be curious about what's happening, what are the challenges. So I think it's really nice that we had our currently CTO with that mindset, I would say. Mm. I wish it happened more, to be honest, but
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah,
everyone has to do
it's
some
hard.
work as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I think in this case of not success that I had, I think it was really hard for me to be able to handle this type of resistance to change, where it was like a mix between implicit and explicit, and we are already agile. And I really think it was one of these challenges that you mentioned, like that we mentioned, that it's uh, maybe the higher management doesn't have a real view of what's really happening to the organizations. So somehow in the middle layer here, there was a miscommunication, like because when I went out to the teams, as I said, a few of them were really receptive. Like, okay, we need to find a way of working. They were not talking, we want agile, but they were like, okay, we are open to try something different. And then, anyways, I convinced the management that to get one of the teams, one of the small teams, and to work as a scrum master for them for a while. And then what happened was that it was a really complex situation as well, but we managed. I did a training with them all by myself about agile, about our values, about Scrum, about why is it important, what are the challenges that we had, and that was a training that we were doing with people that was sitting in another country than Sweden, and people that were sitting even in Asia or in other side of the world as well. So a few things were online, a few things were in place, a lot of hybrid meetings as well. It took a lot of time, but in the end we said, okay, now we feel comfortable to, we have a, let's say a PO, we have decided that we're gonna go for Scrum, we have a PO, we have a few team members, and we need what, we know, like we have a start point, let's say. Um, so we together, we started to organize everything for a first, to run a first sprint, and we did, and that was amazing because I think in the first sprint, the result of the first sprint was the commitment. I think we achieved 87% or
Wow.
something like that, and that was a difference as well because I, as a Scrum Master, I did learn quite a lot as well from my previous experience with that other team that where we estimated 100,
Mm-hmm.
and me, instead of, I was seeing the number increasing, okay, 70 story points, instead of saying to the team, hey guys, do you think we should should we take it down a little bit, what you think, it's a first sprint and so on. So this time I was as well like those, making a dosage of each of the team, like, okay, do you guys really think we should go all in like that in the beginning, how we think? And yeah, so in the end I think we achieved 87% in the first sprint, and then we ran 3 sprints, and then I did the same thing. I put it in a really fancy looking report, went to the management and say, hey, uh, I think there's no better person to say to your organization that this thing is helping them and it's working good than themselves. So I invited them to a meeting with the management and say, be honest, what you think? Does it help? It doesn't? Are these numbers that I'm showing here like fake things or not? And what was the difference between before, where the we are already agile was in place, and what's the difference now? What are the benefits? What are the challenges? And they, yeah, they really liked it, and they really, and then I think I opened a door there, like to the management, like maybe I put the thought, like, okay, maybe we are really not as agile as we think we are, but we are still, you know. It was a little bit like that, I think. And then what happened is that I got the promotion. So when I left, that was what I left behind, pretty much.
So this still sounds like a success story. What was the failure?
Yeah, I think it was a failure because I think from my perspective as a professional, I would say like, okay, I could have handled this in a totally different way, or I could have handled that in a, let's say, less exhausting way for myself as well. Because I think it's like that's the thing with resistance to change. The more you push it, the worse it gets. So the more you say like you really discuss like this is important, and the other one say no, this is not important. The more you crash it, the worse it gets. It gets infected. It gets conflicts in the organization. So what you need to do instead, and what I really learned with that, it's like for a few things you can push. For a few things you need to find another way in. For a few things you need just to take a step back, and for a few things you need to, yeah, I don't know, find a solution. I think that was the thing. No problem is the same. No type of resistance is going to be exactly the same. There's people involved. There's organizations that are going to be changed as well. Personalities. So
It's
it's
very true. The
yeah,
the
and,
the more, yeah, I mean, it's again, you can't solve problems for people. If you do that, I have seen it a lot, where you solve problems for people, no one appreciates that.
yeah,
If you solve
yeah.
problems together with people, then that's where
Mm,
they kind of, you get the buy-in. That's where you can move together and make another step. But
Yeah.
as you say, it might be very, very hard to get that buy-in to make this first step
Mm.
uh, if you have like a personality that is not maybe not willing to do any
Yeah.
steps, who
Yeah.
doesn't want to go out of his comfort zone,
Yeah.
and while doing that, and that becomes really hard. But in
Yeah.
general, I think people are more like, it's not often, if you get the approach where you have like in the team, you have a personal agile coach or a scrum master in the team, it's not that often that I heard that people are resisting. It's when the person, as you say, pushes a lot. If he kind of came in with all new mindset, with all new framework, and says, this is exactly how we should do it by the book, then that's probably where you will get problems, if people are more or less already agile.
Yeah. And you
Uh,
know what I think it was my biggest failure in that case is that I used the
okay,
word agile.
you use the word agile.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think if I had mainly sold the values of it, what
Mm.
we want to achieve with it. Like, do we have transparency in your organization? I'm pretty sure they will not dare to say we have.
Yes.
That's what I think. But that was an insight that I got only after when I
Afterwards, yeah.
when I got out of it. I was like, oh yeah, but if they say they are agile, then I'm gonna find another way in. And I think like, okay, do you have transparency? Do you have short iterations? Do you have a learning organization?
Do we have
And I
happy
think it was
people?
those.
Do we
Yeah,
have ownership of what they
yeah,
do? Do we have like technical excellence? Do we
yeah,
have really
yeah,
good code base? Do we never
yeah,
compromise quality?
yeah. And I think this was a learning for me. Like, okay, that's why I consider it a failure because I should have uh, got in somehow way faster and maybe even before I got this promotion, I would have touched way more that organization with other teams and things like that. And so I think, yeah,
Stuff,
that's my
man.
recommendation. I think when you get resistance to change, I think I would say, regardless of if it's implicit or explicit, try to take a step back and try to, especially if you feel like the resistance sits with the word agile or if the resistance sits with Scrum or less or any framework that it is, try to sell in what you want to achieve, what would be your values in an agile organization and things like that. Because it's so hard. Everyone can argumentate against agile. Everyone can argumentate against Scrum, but no one can do it against transparency. Everyone wants transparency.
That's
Everyone
very
wants value
wise.
being delivered. So that's like that's the goal, I would say.
That's very good. I mean, people, those who are listening now, if you're in trouble, step back and listen to what Fabricio says.
Or at least give it a try. Maybe it doesn't work, but it's worth giving a try.
Exactly,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah,
Try it. Oh, that's
yeah,
really nice.
yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, the whole journey that I had with Agile, I think it's something that we should dare to challenge our knowledge. I see quite what I saw in the beginning of my journey with that was quite a lot of people. Like, you go into these forums, and then I felt like it was like a competition. Like people were like, yeah, but this is not Agile, and they wanted more to put the others down than to really help them as a community. Like, hey guys, think about this and that instead.
That
And I
like
think that
within the company or like some sort of just like conferences or
no, I think in our company I haven't seen it happening that much, to be honest. But like if you go to any agile blog or anything like that, even on
yeah,
LinkedIn,
it's a lot of
I
it.
saw quite harsh comments there. Like, come on, people, breathe love,
I'm listening to a
try to
guy
help each other. Like, I
and he
mean,
says like they're cultists. Those who like have this as a religion. Like if you just step to the side, you're out of our church.
yeah, 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 that's a problem. Yeah, I think that's a. I think somehow we need to understand that it's it's so hard for someone to say that it's like, okay, I know everything about the agile world, or because just by thinking that the agile world is constantly changing as well, that's a constant evolution, I would say. So I think myself, I had a big journey into it, and it's not really something that you're going to learn from one day to another. I would say even that one of my biggest knowledges came by being a Scrum Master itself. So I think even working as a Scrum Master would be a beneficial somehow. Like, okay, host a retrospective meeting with your team, you manager. Do
Exactly.
it.
It's a shame that
Do
you're
it.
stepping out of it. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
ideally, it would be good if you could, like, step in now and then and just be a scrum master for the team for, I don't know, a month. It's going to be hard because then, if people depend on you, then you might not get the feedback you want to get. You might not
yeah,
get people being honest with you
yeah,
if they're not feeling themselves being safe. And I
yeah,
think in many organizations, this mechanism is a major blocker, a major problem. Why people quit the organizations? They do not have the relationship they want with their managers.
mm,
And if you are becoming if you're taking the role of a scrum master in the team, but your formal position is a manager, it might be tough.
yeah, yeah,
Unless the company has the way to mitigate that. Like if the company
mm,
has a good way of securing the employee from
mm,
being bullied or punished by his manager, if the
yeah,
organization has the way for employees to change the manager, for example,
mm,
if
mm,
there are mechanisms like self-organization, if there are mechanisms of how you can switch to another manager while keeping
mm,
your place in the company, then
yeah,
it's more viable, I would say, to do what you say. But
mm,
otherwise, this should be still possible if the team is running well. If everything
mm,
is going fine, if there are not so many problems, then the manager could step in and probably do things together with the team and have really
mm,
good insight on what's happening and give his experienced advice. And
mm,
maybe like change the organization around the team so
yeah,
they would be in a better environment to do
yeah,
what they should do.
mm. I also think leadership it's a quite important topic as well when it comes to that. I think I think in Sweden there's already a way less hierarchy than where I came from or the culture that I was raised in, and I think I always challenge that that in Brazil. I think that's why I think I like a lot the way the hierarchy, if we can call it a hierarchy in Sweden. It's a very flat organization as I see. But at the same time, I think the managers should seek more, should, as you said, connect with their employees. And you're not gonna lose authority because like you are getting close to them or anything like that. I think that's one fear as well that there is in that there can be in a few managers. Like, okay, but if I get too close to my employees, there will be that relation that I become a friend or anything like that. But I think no, it's a quite big step there. You can still be nice. You can still break this barrier and that extremely formality that there is and to get to know more your organization, to get to connect more to people. Uh,
If you heard about this survey from TNS Gallup called Q12,
no,
it's 12 questions, really nice. I mean, you can Google that.
mm,
TNS Q12.
mm,
It's a quick survey they did to find out like what makes teams successful. I think that they've explored enormous amount of organizations, and they kind of looked for successful teams there. And they came up with these 12 questions that the more you answer them positively, the more likely it is that your team is doing really good. And one of the questions in this questionnaire was like, do you have a close friend working with you? Or like, do you have your best friend working
mm,
with you close?
mm,
And like, if you read this if you read it first time, like, why is that even important? Why is that even
mm,
matter whether my friends are working with me or not?
mm,
Because like
mm,
we all are professionals, we should be, as
mm,
you said, very formal in many
mm,
countries.
no,
But these guys found out that if you have a friend working with you in your team immediately close to you, then the level of trust between two of you will be very high. The pain of failure will be very low. And most likely you might not even get to the failure, because your friend might stop you from that. He will help you, he'll guide you, he'll coach you. If needed, he will be there to cover your back and fix the problem much easier. And imagine you have a team of friends working together, and imagine those people are gathered around a common goal. I mean, that's the ideal way how I see teams working together.
Yeah.
And in the large organizations, it's hard to achieve, but that's what you get in the startups, right?
Yeah.
Get a bunch of people who are united by one idea, and they work really close together. Like, I've been working for many hours. The day is like 14, 16 hours per day. You can work together with those people. You can't be enemies. You will become friends eventually. And those relationships, they stay for many, many years.
Yeah, and I think it's even related to what we said as well. Like, as a manager, it is so hard when you are with your full agenda booked to have this time to connect with the team, to have this time to get closer to them, to break those barriers. And I really think, Liz, the values that you sell to a team, like, okay, we want to sell, for example, as we said, transparency. That should be also between the managers and the teams, as I feel. I think I read something about transparency on budget. I think that was a really, really interesting topic as well, on how why we consider that the money aspect it's so secret. Like, if it's a budget for your area, why can't your employees know where you plan to invest money for your area, or something like that?
That's
So
crazy.
I think these values are so uh, powerful. They are so important, and it's so much easier to sell a change or to sell a new way of working when we value those values itself.
Are you planning to provide some sort of transparency for the budgets for your team? I mean, it's a big step in the company.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, there were attempts to do that. I know that,
yeah.
and there are organizations that work fully transparent.
Yeah,
To the extent we
I,
haven't seen.
yeah, I'm really considering it, to be honest. I'm just waiting until it really gets approved. But this time, I think it will be pretty much like the work was done already, so I will pretty much like inform them. But I think the goal should be that in the upcoming times that we do it together even. So it's not like, okay, I decided everything and here it is. No, but that we contest and we together define a way of working with it. And then I don't know how much my management's gonna like about it or not, but I think that's something that
I mean, in
that I
Sweden,
should give a try.
it's definitely worth a try. Especially in Sweden, it should be much easier, because here you get access to all salaries of everyone for free. It's not a secret information. It's an open society in that sense. So that aspect I think makes it much easier. But when it comes to, as you say, investments in your unit, when it comes to like educational budget, when it comes to trainings, when it comes to like development areas, the systems you work with, I mean, that could be really, really good actually to have that transparency, to discuss it maybe even with the team. Why are we investing this much in the maintenance of the system, which we're not going to use in a year? It might help you as a manager to be better and to get better value for the company, so to say.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is one thing that I see quite a lot as well in the agile world. I think we talk a lot about, okay, what's the paper that the manager has, and I really think that what better than really being the change you want to see. Like, if you demonstrate, like, okay, I'm being transparent about this and that, this is how I would like our team to achieve this level of transparency or this level of trust or this type of things. uh, so I think it's still indeed also connected to values that we do see higher in Agile teams or in Scrum teams or in whatever you like it to call it. So I do think like we as managers should adapt the changes to ourselves first, even before we selling them. That will make it 10 times better, I would say.
That's what you have when you say when you say leadership, right? As a leader, you should be able to apply things to yourself and kind of
Yeah,
show or lead by example. That's one of the
yeah, yeah,
practices. And very often, yeah, you don't put your actions to your words.
yeah.
But for people being led by example, that's great. And I mean, if you listen to Simon Sinek, where he talks about the militaries, how they behave, how they do
Mm,
daily life, how they eat, how they act in combat, you're getting very much inspired. Why don't we do those kind of principles in business, which is much less dangerous?
mm,
And we still have the same good people. It's just
mm,
that's a puzzle. I guess part of the puzzle is the education that they have gotten when they were like growing and raised. You are
mm,
one of the new generation of managers, which we need more definitely
mm,
of, and that's why you feel safe to embrace those kind of ideas
mm,
and implement them and well show their value.
mm,
While for the others
mm,
it might be very different, very scary. They have never tried it in
mm,
their life, and they are
mm,
quite far in their
mm,
careers
mm,
to
yeah,
maybe even risk to change something.
yeah. And I think also that this is a constant in the same way that we say that change is a constant. The resistance to change is also a constant. I think that somehow there will always be, we as humans, we would have this instinct of like, okay, why should I do that? It has been working for 30 years. And so I think indeed, it may be easier for a few generations than for others. But I think the most important thing is that we as individuals should not lose the dare to try. I think that's what makes it like extremely huge difference. Like, okay, we need to dare to try new things all the time. It doesn't mean that we're gonna love them. It doesn't mean that we're gonna succeed in all of them, but we can't stop trying new things. I think that's the approach. I don't know if that's related to my generation as well. If I like it when it's chaotic. I like it when it's like, okay, well, how can we do it better? This is something I burn for personally. I like to work with improvements. I like to work with this type of thing. So
It's really cool.
yeah, yeah.
It's I mean, I think that the what you're trying to or what you're describing, uh, I might relay not to chaos, because chaos is actually the system with high entropies. But when it comes to
Mm,
software development, these are the systems with very high number of relationships. And
mm,
this is what, if you look at it from the top, from the above, you will see it will look like chaos to you. But if you look down, if you look kind of drill it down a bit, then you will see that everyone does what he needs to do in order to
mm,
perform his duties. And from the side, it would look chaotic. From inside, it will look it will make sense. That's the way how
mm,
Spotify works. They have these
mm,
enormous amount of squads, which have responsibilities like subsystems that they're responsible for, and they interact enormously uh, with enormous amount of other teams. And it is a problem. The dependencies for them is a problem. And if you look from the top again, it won't make sense for you. And maybe
mm,
as a person who really likes order, you would like to streamline things, make these gates and be the gatekeeper yourself on one of those gates. Then it makes perfect sense. It's total
mm.
order. It looks really beautiful, both on diagrams and from all directions, but it won't
Yeah,
work. You will
yeah,
kind of clog the whole system.
yeah,
You will clog the whole
yeah,
work. You'll remove the flexibility and
yeah,
motivation and
yeah, yeah.
delivery of
I
it.
think exactly. I think that I had, for example, leaderships in the past that I felt they were quite in. They were supportive, like they were there when I needed them, but they were maybe even too much in. They were like taking technical decisions for me when I was a technician, and and being part of really deep technical discussions and expressing what they would like to have. And this is what I see in a few companies. Luckily, not that much in our company, but I see in other companies that what tends to happen is that you have a team, and then you get your best developer or you get your best DBA, and you turn that person into a leader or into a group manager. And then we tend to joke that by doing that, you lose a really good a really good technical resource, and you might even get a really or not so good leader or manager. At the instant, of course, people can evolve, people can develop themselves. So with time, that tends to balance. But I also think that
Just to remark to that example, I mean,
mhm,
I don't know any other way how you can try and develop people. The problem for me is that when that situation happens, and you see that a lot in in all organizations, is that when that person learns the other people are getting hurt, like the team or teams are getting hurt, and it's really ideally you wouldn't allow that to happen, but then you won't make those people grow as well.
yeah,
I don't know what's the solution for that problem. I guess it might be that that person would really need a close mentor that would kind of be with
mm,
him there to make sure that he doesn't hurt people.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's not always feasible and not always possible for the large organizations.
yeah, of
And that's
course,
why we're getting people quitting and organizations
mm,
losing money, talents,
yeah,
customers, which makes terrible consequences.
yeah, definitely. And
Many
I
good
think
managers I know, they have gone through that path, and I
yeah,
mean they admit their mistakes
yeah,
afterwards, and it's very painful to look back.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm one of
And
those as well.
it's quite interesting as well because I did a study in another company that I worked for. After I left, it was like my own reflections, my own year retrospective. Like once I left the company, it was like Christmas time, and then you reflect about things that happened over the year. So I think I was like, okay, I had a really bad experience with a manager. As I said, he was really taking technical decisions, and for me, that was really like, okay, what's happening here? Like I was challenging it. Why is he doing that? And it was really not that I was not doing it, so he needed to step in. It was really like different opinions and things like that. And it's totally okay, I think, to have different opinions. But at the same time, I felt how much that
Can you
affected me.
question that? Yeah, I mean, you depend on that person, right? He's
Uh,
your boss. He can fire you.
yeah, yeah,
Could you say that he's wrong here, or that probably his decision is not the good fit for the situation? It'll be very hard for you to do that.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's so hard as well because I felt how much that affected me as an employee. I felt how much that put me in a bubble where I could not make improvements myself, where I could not pretty much leave or do anything else out of what was expected of me. And I was put into this, let's say, mind jail that, okay, you're supposed to do this, and that. And every time the manager needs to approve and things like that. So it was really after I left this organization, I felt, and it was more or less similar to when I moved to Sweden, and then I thought about these things that happened years ago as well. That I saw, okay, what's the benefit of having a leader that respect the teams? Maybe the leader have a different opinion as well. I got this feedback from my team now. That they appreciated that sometimes they noticed I had a different opinion from what they had, but I still understood their opinion and I stood for their decision, even if I had a different opinion about it. So I think it was extremely high appreciated by the team. That okay, sometimes maybe it's not that you're not gonna say what you think as a manager or anything like that, but somehow it, as you said, it can affect a lot of the relation that you have with your team and the relation that you have with your persons if you are the only one taking all of the decisions and doing everything for the team.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You should not do things for the team. You either do those things with them, or you shut up and
Yeah,
observe and see if they need
yeah,
help.
yeah,
It's one of my good friends sent me an article recently about the crossroads and like the three cops that were like regulating the crossroad and like which essentially boils down to three management styles. Like one guy, he was like there all day, all shift, and he was regulating the traffic, and there were like huge traffic jams all over the place. On the second day, there was like a lady who was like she looked and observed the situation a little bit, and then she saw that the drivers can actually handle most of the cases for themselves. And then she was still standing in the middle of the crossroad, and she was like regulating the traffic a bit. It's like she was like a big mama for this crossroad. And then there was a third guy who was like a sheriff in the town. He just came to this crossroad, put the chair under the tree, and like started drinking cola and like observing if something happens. Then he would stood up and he would do the regulations. But before anything happens, like in 90% of cases, it was like self-regulated place. And he like made one step and just one intervention, which kind of cleared all the stuff. So that's what the army general says calls the gardener approach, where you create the environment for your teams to deliver. You don't act or participate in delivery. You create the infrastructure, the ecosystem for
yeah,
people to deliver, and you
yeah,
make sure that they are happy with it.
yeah.
But it's very
And
tough.
yeah, yeah, and like this related to that as well. Like in that retrospective that I had at that year, I remember that I really found out why like these leaders or these the group managers sometimes were even behaving like that. And in a few cases, it was even not because they were like that, but in a few cases, it was because the organization and everything around them was uh, creating this need of him to act like that. So I
Why
think
would
as
that
well,
happen? Why would that be needed?
I, I think it might be related to the type of culture that you have, like in your company itself. Of course, like everything that we say, oh, either it's the fault of the culture or either it's fault of the leadership. But
We are culture. We
yeah,
are.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is indeed. It is extremely related to the culture, and I think this is what was happening. That in that case, the person maybe wanted to do something different. It's the same history when we talk about the like when you watch movies and you see that there's always the good cop and he enters the organization and he wants to be a good cop and there's the bad cops around there and it's so hard for the good cop sometimes to behave like he wants to behave. So I think somehow it's extremely important to fit organization that feels good for you as well. It doesn't matter your profession itself, but to be part of organization that share the same values with you and things like that. Otherwise, as we said, you're gonna end up maybe doing stuff that it's not nice, and it's really not because you want to do it, but because the hierarchy uh, make kind of this need on you to to do it.
stuff.
You were smiling. I was talking. You were
No,
smiling.
it's that's very relevant, I think, and
Yeah.
these are quite complex topics. Maybe for another episode.
Yeah. I think my biggest summary would be to never stop being hungry for
That's from
knowledge.
Steve Jobs, man.
No, but I think he meant it. I think he had it right there in the spot. It doesn't matter that you already think that you have achieved a good position into knowledge of something. Always there to challenge your own knowledge sometimes and really go and see around. Does it really make sense what you're saying? Like that you are already agile or something like that. And there's a big difference, guys, in doing agile and being agile. So
That's
please,
another episode, yes.
yeah,
But being humble, right? Being humble to embrace another opinions, especially as a
yeah,
manager, it's super hard and super important.
yeah, definitely. And no one is perfect. No one. I mean, we are all perfect, but no
Are
one,
we?
no one knows everything. That's the biggest truth. And I think I have here when it comes to resistance to change, try to pay attention for this. Uh, it's a logical resistance, it's a psychological resistance, sociological. Is it explicit? Is it implicit? Try to see where it is. Try to find a way in without clashing. Sometimes you need to push, but sometimes you just need to take a step back, and there's no recipe for that. You're gonna need to feel it yourself, pretty much. But the good thing is to start doing it by yourself first. Do the change yourself, and that will make it way easier to do it with your team and to sell that to your team. And sell the values. Sometimes, especially with resistance to agile, selling the value, selling what you would like to have as a result of the agile journey in your organization. And when you sell this, it's going to be way easier as well to overcome the barriers, I think.
Start with wise.
Yeah, and yeah, always be open to, as I said, be humble. Give a try to new things. Give a try to improvements. I really think it's going to be, at least for me, it would be very boring to work in a place where you don't need to do any improvement. I don't think I ever saw any group that doesn't have an improvement to do. Like uh, there's always something better to look for or something that we can improve. I think in every situation. So give it a try. Be open to new suggestions, new opinions, and I think that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we're covered then.
Yes.
Good.
Good.
Thanks. It was time well spent.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Well, we touched even leadership.
Yeah,
Which
exactly. We've been like, but I think it was a good flow. I mean, as long as we had fun, I had a lot of fun. I
yeah,
don't know.
I too. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Then we're good. Then we were on the right track.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Thanks, man.
Great.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you. We
Thank you
keep
for
in touch.
today then. Boom.
Thank
All
you.
right, man. Thank you for today
See
and have a
you.
lovely afternoon.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.